Reddit, what is one way you have seen someone screw up their life with just a couple of words? Anyone remember the balloon boy incident? This happened maybe 6 to 7 years ago. A family where the dad was some sort of inventor made a weather balloon that flew off, and they panicked because one of their younger boys who was around 6 at the time was missing. They thought he was up in the rogue weather balloon. News crews were called. It became viral as cameras followed the balloon around, even panicking when they saw something fall out of it. Turns out boy was found safe, playing at their attic. They still became viral and news outlets want to interview the family, and dad was more than happy to comply. Well, kids being innocent kids. During one major news network interview, the sleepy boy said, "We did it for a show." You can see that look in the dad's eyes of IF***CK up, revealing that the rogue balloon boy was staged by the dad so that the dad can shop for a reality TV show for his family. After that they went under a hailstorm of investigation. CPS was called and they were sued for the hoax. Big mess. I don't feel sorry for the dad. I feel sorry for his kids going through public scrutiny just because daddy wants his 15 minutes of fame. I saw somebody screw up their own life and somebody else's simultaneously. A few years ago my 15-year-old cousin got pregnant. She wanted an abortion. My aunt wouldn't let her get one. Adoption wasn't an option either. You're not getting an abortion. You made your bed, so you lie in it. So my cousin carried the baby to term and had a healthy baby girl. She dropped out of school because my aunt wanted nothing to do with the baby, so she had to tend to it full time. A week of this goes on and my cousin decides enough is enough and runs away with her 17-year-old boyfriend. My cousin had straight A's until she was basically forced to drop out. She still doesn't have her degree and is still living with her boyfriend somewhere in Washington. He has a construction job and my cousin has an Etsy shop. They're doing okay, but I know my cousin always wanted to go to college. My aunt had to raise the baby and is still raising her. She is 45 and did not want another kid. This is a real story. A few years ago I was an avid World of Warcraft player and one of my best friends had finally started playing the game. This was great for our friendship because I had moved to another state and it was something we could do that was basically like us getting to hang out. We'd log into WoW a few times a week after work and shoot the shit over Skype. At this time he was also dating this girl who also played WoW. Their relationship had been going strong for about a year and she was starting to get to the point where she wanted to move in with him. However, he had been dodging that subject and stating he'd never lived with a girl before, which he had, and wasn't ready to go there just yet. One day him and I are on a Skype call doing our WoW thing. His girlfriend is also in the room with him playing on his Xbox off in the background. I start talking about my wife or something, going into a funny story about living with her, which we get a chuckle out of it. My friend tries to one-up the story by telling me something he experienced while living with his former girlfriend, and he said, "Dude, when I lived with Melissa, blah blah blah." Immediately my heart sank. I sent him a DM via WoW that simply said, "You done fucked up, dude. You just said you lived with your ex." And I swear to Christ I heard his balls shoot up from his nutsack to his throat over Skype. He replied back in game, "It's cool bro. I don't think she heard. She's playing Xbox. Let's just play it off." In my mind there's no way she didn't hear that shit. I pictured her picking up that sentence like when Peter Parker went into Spider-Sense mode during the first Spider-Man movie and he could hear every little detail around him, including a fly buzzing through the air. Anyway, the tone of our Skype conversion went from laughing to awkward silence pretty quick. It's funny because I was legit nervous, even though it had nothing to do with me. My wingman instincts were in full panic mode. We played WoW for a few more minutes and he DMs me fuck. She just got up and left without even saying anything. I gotta go. That was it. He was fucking dead. I once watched someone talk themselves out of a job. They were giving a presentation to a senior client in which they were providing update information on the last 3 months of work in a particular project stream. Their presentation consisted of them stating that they didn't know what they were talking about, had done no investigation work, and had made up their own story. Yes, that is a quote. My friend got stopped for a DUI. He told me he was sober when we left, but when we stopped for the cop he told me he actually had been drinking. He managed to pass all the field sobriety tests and even a conversation with the cop for like 15 minutes. The cop was going to let him off with a speeding ticket. He was speeding and ask my friend to sign the ticket. My friend said no. The cops arrested him and took him to jail where they gave him a breathalyzer, discovered he was over the limit, and then wrote him up for a DUI. A woman in Brazil yelled macaco Portuguese for monkey, seen as a wildly offensive slur against black people, to the point that you can be prosecuted legally for hate speech, at a black soccer player during a game. Not knowing that she happened to be on the jumbotron at that moment, she lost her job due to it and became a complete social pariah. Destroyed her life with just one word. I don't know if it was mentioned before. In 2011, Alexandra Wallace, a UCLA student, uploaded a video to YouTube mocking Asian UCLA students. The video went viral, resulting in numerous videos mocking her and her blatant racist statements. She had to leave UCLA. About a year ago in my job we were doing trial days. We were hiring 3 new people and had 5 people in for a trial day, 1 person a day Monday to Friday. My manager asked me to email her that night to let me know how the girl I had for the trial day got on and if she was worth hiring. So everything is going great, lovely girl, very easy to get along with and adapted very easily. So I'm making some conversation and she mentions that she goes from job a lot and gets bored of jobs very easily. Literally because of this, I had to tell my manager not to hire her because we'd only be replacing her soon enough. I still don't understand why someone would say what she said during a trial for a job. She shot herself in the foot by saying that. Although on side note, the 3 people we did hire are still working for us a year later, so I suppose there's some happy ending. My step-uncle recently got married, and while super drunk at the reception, made a cringe-inducing speech about how he knew a really good divorce lawyer that would guarantee him alimony in the settlement. When the smiles turned to gasps, he quickly backpedaled and said he wouldn't divorce her right away, he would get his money's worth from the wedding. Being a champ and still sticking to his guns, to make a laugh he boldly claimed he would murder and kill to make more money than she did, so she would be well taken care of. Everyone at the reception hall was completely dumbfounded, while my brother and I, who attended with our wives, tried to stifle our laughter at the train wreck we just watched in slow motion. The bride cried and ran out, while my uncle chased after her yelling, "And I shit you not, what did I say?" I had a friend in university who was built to be a cop. He was an athletic machine. He could run for miles and was genuinely passionate about justice. Sophomore year he started hanging out with stoners and decided that he ain't no copper. Varna from Survivor screwed up pretty badly. He was about to be voted off the tribe and was making one last plea to let him stay on when he brought up how there is deception in the tribe because one of the tribe members hadn't told everybody that they were transgender. He outed the guy on national television, was immediately voted off, and was fired from his job after the episode aired because of how much hate he got from that. PewDiePie, he's not exactly ruined, but I think it counts. He did a video featuring the website Fiverr, where you pay $5 to people to do a lot of stuff. He paid $5 to a couple of guys who would do a silly dance along with any message. He requested the message to be death to all Jews as a joke. The guys actually did it, and they got their account suspended when the video got out, and eventually got it back. The Wall Street Journal did an article based in many of his Nazi and edgy jokes, only that WSJ didn't say they were jokes, and he lost his 2nd season of Scare PewDiePie and other things. And now it seems like WSJ was running a war against YouTube. 2 days after having my head cracked open, I had a really bad day. My 4-year-old daughter, who I love, wasn't picked up by her respite care family, and they were completely unreachable. My 1st grade son was running a fever, so he was home from school. My daughter has anger and aggression issues, and she threw 3 gigantic tantrums that day. A social worker even came to my home and checked on us that day. I'll admit I was really mentally fucked up before the car accident, but I was just depressed. After begging anyone I could think to call to come help, because my daughter was trying to rip my staples and stitches out, I called the social worker and said someone had to come help or get her, because she was downright terrifying. The next thing I know, the police came and took my children. I've never gotten them back. I can't fathom how many people and social workers ignored me. It makes me sick. Not even a week into foster placement, my daughter was behaving like she did at home, and was put into psychiatric hospital. She was 4 years old. To this day, she still has violent behavior with no common trigger. She's finally old enough to be medicated, but as far as I know, it's caused her to gain weight. That's it. She's just gone and bit a classmate and took out a chunk. I'm scared of her and for her. How and why? I ache because I shouldn't have been left alone after a social worker watched her behavior hours earlier and knew I had a head injury. I never was charged with abuse or neglect, but my family is destroyed because I asked for help. Not sure if this screwed up his life, but changed it in some way, I'm sure. This happened at one of my old jobs about 10 years ago. There was an opening for a management position. My coworker that sits in the cube behind me applied for it. There was actually a number of guys on our team apply, so the VP is doing a lunch interview each day with the guys applying. 2 or 3 guys have already done it. One day sitting in my cube, spun around so I'm facing my coworker's desk. We are talking about whatever. VP walks up and says, "Chicken Banes coworker, how about we go have some lunch? My treat." My coworker looks at him dead in the eye and says, "Oh, I don't eat lunch." VP, okay. How about we go downstairs and grab a coffee then? Couple of guys in my hometown were looking for something to steal so they could sell it to buy drugs. They come to a house where no one was supposed to be home, and one guy gets out of the car and goes to the house to steal a grill. A friend of the home marijuana happened to be there and came out when he stepped onto the porch. He tells a friend that he is looking for his dog, so the guy walks out into the yard to help look for it. The would-be robber panics and pulls out a gun and shoots the man in the back of the head. At 21 he started a life sentence for a really stupid murder. Huffing paint. My college buddy was an affable stoner type who liked psychedelics, weed, and drinking. He was broke, so he got into huffing paint over the summer. He passed out with a plastic bag full of spray paint over his face and ended up depriving his brain of oxygen and is now mentally disabled due to brain damage. Like, drooling, slurring, can't tie his own shoes or perform basic life tasks, level disabled. Guy from my school went to rob a corner shop at knife point. He pulled up with his push bike, went into the store, and threatened the shopkeeper with a knife to give him all the money in the register. The shopkeeper refused, and the robber was too pussy to do anything, so he grabbed a pack of gum and ran out. 20 minutes later the robber realized he left his bike behind in his panic, so he went back to get it. This was at the same time the police were questioning the shopkeeper on the incident. They swiftly arrested him there and then. Think he got 2 years for stealing gum at knife point. My half-brother decided it was a good idea to try and rob the restaurant he worked at. Didn't wear a mask or try to hide his voice in any way. At the time, he was hopelessly addicted to crack, so he obviously wasn't thinking straight when he convinced his dealer's GF to help him out. She secured a gun for him, and he was dumb enough or desperate enough not to check it and didn't realize it was a BB gun. They did manage to get out of the restaurant with $7,000, but the dealer and his very large friends were waiting for them. When they came out, they beat the crap out of him, took the money, and left him unconscious for the police. He got 7 years in prison for armed robbery and grand larceny. He did manage to kick his drug habit in prison though. Kid I went to high school with used to break into homes in his neighborhood to steal phones with his younger brother. They always did seem to have a couple of screws loose, but never thought they were capable of hurting anyone. Then one night they robbed the wrong house. As they were sneaking into the kitchen, the owner of the house came in for a late night glass of water and caught them in the act. Unlucky for them, he also was a former Marine. They got into it, but one of the kids had a knife and started repeatedly stabbing the dude in the head. They ran off after that, but the next day they were arrested. One is still in juvie 5 years later, the other was sentenced to 30 years in state prison. My sister and her husband started doing crack. Both lost their job. They lost their house. Moved across the country with their kids who hated them for their big fuck-ups. Sister decides to get sober after getting a DUI. Husband kicks her out for it. She moves back with nothing but the clothes on her back and gets sober. Kids move out to be with her a year later. She gets her life in order and is now in the process of buying a house. Husband works now just to support a drug and alcohol habit while living in his mom's house. So even though she ruined her life pretty bad for a while, she managed to get her shit back together. One of my friends ordered crack from the dark web. Where I'm from, it's not something anybody ever really does. It's unheard of, really. Anyway, fast forward 6 months and he's the most vile person you could ever meet. He dragged another friend down with him. He went from an engineer to stealing and backstabbing in about a month. Heartbreaking. Don't do crack. A few years back, one of the students attending the university I work at got caught trying to sneak a shitload of drugs into a local nightclub. The first we found out about it was when some police officers turned up with a warrant to go through his room, and I was the lucky person chosen to go let them in. So I opened the door, and oh dear lord, there's drugs everywhere. If you've ever seen one of those old Timmy Pick and Mix shops with all the sweets in big glass jars, imagine that but with pills and wraps of powder instead. Everything else was all super neat and tidy, and it was one of the cleanest student rooms I'd ever been in. Just that every flat surface had a container full of drugs or some other sort of paraphernalia on it. This student was in his 4th year of master's degree, and due to finish in 3 months. He ended up being charged with possession with intent to supply, and since a lot of the stuff he had in there was Class A, is now going to be in prison for a decade or 2. He was also expelled, of course, and will still be on the hook for £60k of student debt afterwards. Friend got married right after HS, left for boot camp, and deployed soon after. Gave his wife power of attorney. She destroyed his credit, and put him $200k in debt in 8 months. They divorced, but his co advised him to just give her whatever she wants to keep her quiet. So now he's also paying alimony. It sucks because he only joined the military to pay for college. But now he's afraid he won't be able to afford it even with a GI Bill.